I'm Lilian. Now, a year ago, I signed up for a Pinterest account, quite simply because I was curious as to what it was all about. For those of you who don't know, Pinterest is basically a massive online collection of pictures. Now, here's an example of what my Pinterest feed looks like. As you can see, the pictures that show up are of magical, romanticized, faraway places. Well, the internet has given this a name, the cottagecore aesthetic. There are plenty of other aesthetics out there, like light academia or dark academia. Now, these terms may seem a little ridiculous, and you may have dismissed this as another passing teenage trend. But what I want to talk about today is how this trend actually links to a bigger issue, escapism. Let's face it, life is disappointing. Sometimes it gets boring too. If you start to crave some sort of escape from reality, you are not the only one. You may dream about hopping on a flight to overly romanticized places like Paris or New York City. This is called escapism. Here's the Merriam-Webster definition in case you were curious. People subconsciously conjure up idealized images of places that they think they would be happiest in. Some, including me, turn to Pinterest for this exact purpose. Now, to be fair, it does provide some form of relief to many youths. We all need a little escape from time to time. We crave a break from our stressful adolescent lives. Escapism allows us to retreat, even just for a little while. Unfortunately, the reality is that it is entirely different from reality. We are just making out an ideal version of the life we want to live. We think that this is going to make us the happiest. Therefore, we lust for it. Let me share a story of my own experience with escapism. Sometimes on my Pinterest feed, there will be colorful pictures of people going on cute picnics with their friends. Now, here's what you get from simply typing the word picnic into your Pinterest search bar. I remember thinking that it looked like such a nice, enjoyable experience. So one day, I decided to do it. I went on a picnic with my friends. I had such high expectations because I was living off this fantasy that I created in my head. Well, the thing is that Pinterest doesn't exactly show you the full story. I went home that day with 5 insect bites on each leg, a horrible tan from my sandals, and all I wanted to do was just to take a long, hot shower. So it wasn't the idealized picnic that I had in mind. Although I did have fun with my friends, it got me thinking about how escapism can be really harmful for us sometimes. So here lies my first reason. Escapism only delays your problems. A lot of people allow escapism to take over reality. They see this as a way to cope with their current problems. You may not know it, but you may be one of these people. Subconsciously, you are trying to avoid the harshness of reality by escaping. We are all guilty of this sometimes, but the pitfall comes when you do it too much. According to the Journal of Youth and Adolescents, researchers study the impacts when youth cope by avoiding their problems. They found that when we try to escape our problems, we are actually at higher risk of depression. This comes with a whole array of other mental health disorders. When we spend too much of our time in fantasies, we are delaying our problems, which we all need to face, whether we like it or not. Eventually, everything is going to snowball, and you end up bearing an even greater burden than before. Secondly, escapism, more often than not, leads to disappointment. Of course, it can be a great source of motivation for some people. But what happens when you actually achieve your idealized fantasy. Let's say you work really hard to be able to buy your dream house in some faraway country. But when you do get there in the end, it's not the perfect life that you dreamt of. You think you're finally going to be content, but you're not. Maybe you're just in love with the idea of possessing that house. In reality, it's actually kind of underwhelming because you overly romanticize that life and failed to realize that nothing is a perfect utopia. Escapism throws away the constraints of reality, and this is precisely where the line between the real world and our imaginary utopian dream starts to blur. But what if your fantasy turns out exactly as well as you expected? Well, even if you do get that massive surge of happiness, it's going to fizzle out sooner or later, and you're going to start thinking of the next great thing you want to achieve. Why does this happen? Well, one of the most basic economic problems is that humans have unlimited wants. We will always want more. So even if your dream ends up fulfilling your expectations, your happiness boost is not going to last forever. In fact, you're probably going to move on pretty quickly and start having new dreams. So you can see that while escapism can be a good way to de-stress or a motivating factor for you to work towards your dreams, there are several downsides to it. Now, here's what you can do instead. Go and evaluate your utopian dream. Is it feasible? Is it actually going to make you happy? Or is it what you think you want? Approaching it in a more pragmatic way can help make your expectations a little more realistic. You can also try practicing gratitude for your current life. What are some things that you're thankful for? It can be your family, your friends, your pet, or even that random stranger who held the door for you. I know that it can be hard to appreciate life sometimes, but building a consistent habit of gratitude and self-love will pay off. Yes, it is nice to scroll through aesthetic cottagecore pictures on Pinterest. It is nice to daydream about retreating to some glass-walled mansion by the beach. And it is nice to imagine a stress-free life where you are 100% content. But if there's one thing I want you to take away from this talk, it's that you must learn to distinguish between idealism and reality. If you don't, there will be a long, twisted rabbit hole of problems to follow. Thank you, stay safe, and stay happy.